here, but when you look at the top of the table and there is that 11-point gap, even though Liverpool have played a game more, where are we, do you think?
We're looking at the possible champions without a shadow of a doubt. You only have to look at the closest team to them in respect of Arsenal and what they're going through. It looks like you can't see where the next win's coming from in respect to the way they're playing. And you look at Liverpool against City, and it looked quite comfortable in the way they did it. You know, people talking about Liverpool, yeah, but they're not playing. They didn't have to. They've got it under such control. They didn't have to, and they just look. They look like champions as we sit now, and they look like a team. And you know the way they celebrated afterwards? There was a certain, not relief, but there was a certain kind of sense of, you know something, that was something.
Progress.
Something there. So there was something there, which I didn't begrudge them for.
When you use the word control there to describe that game for Liverpool, is that a word that could be used to describe Liverpool's season so far?
Absolutely, and I think it comes from Arne Slot. We've probably waxed lyrical about him many a time already this season to come in and do what he's done with this team. Yes, he inherited a good squad. They didn't make many, if any, additions. I think Chiesa's the player that's come in and, you know, he's added depth to the squad. I was at the game yesterday and I saw him on the touchline. You can see how invested he is. I think sometimes that's a real sign of how deep and how strong a squad is how the subs act on the sideline. Yes. And I thought you could feel a sense of real togetherness from Liverpool Football Club.
Do you mean that in terms of they feel there's a chance of them going on and making a difference, that they don't just feel that they're there just to keep the bench warm?
Yeah, they believe in the project, they believe in what they're doing, and there's a real unity about them. And right, he said, the way they celebrated at the end, it meant something. They had full control. They came out of, if it's 5 gears, they were probably in third gear. And they had space to grow, but I think the midfield are monsters for Liverpool. The way they operate, they epitomise the control, and again, another impressive performance.
It's interesting the way that we're talking about Liverpool this season, because they're 11 points clear, as we keep saying, and I know they've played a game more, and yet there've been a lot of times this season where it feels like they haven't kicked into gear. Do you think some of that is just a comparison with the style of football that Jurgen Klopp played and the style of football that Arne Slot likes to play?
Maybe a bit of the Premier League hasn't been nowhere near their level, really. The Liverpool level, their own level, City, Arsenal, Spurs, United, a lot of those teams haven't really been at their best, really. And for Liverpool, you can only beat what's in front of you anyway, but there's a lot of games where they didn't even have to be great to win. Yeah. And I thought yesterday I was at the game as well with Izzy, and it was just like they just did exactly what they needed to. The shape was perfect, the organisation, tactically, the 4-2-4 were great. To have Jones and Szoboszlai as the front two, really, and then Salah and Diaz wide was perfectly. And I think City are not very good this season, we know that, but Liverpool were so much in control and so efficient in everything. Yeah. Van Dijk and Konate looked like they were in the bath, really. It was so easy. It was like literally cigars in their mouth and then everything in front of them. It was just like perfect. Like, come at us, because City, for all the ball they had, didn't really have enough threat, I think. You
know, the thing is, you saw the threat was Doku. But I think that when you saw Doku and then obviously no Haaland, no presence in the box, a lot of what he was doing was very much, Liverpool just had it really like locked off. Everything he'd done, tried to cut it inside. There was players there. And that is what I'm saying about Liverpool and our control, that they're just so in control of everything that you didn't feel like City were going to actually harm them. And I think when you look at Liverpool, it all starts really, Kels, from people talking about, look at Liverpool's start, it's so easy. But then they had to win all of those to get to a place where they can say, right, let's see what we're up against. Okay, let's see what they do when they play against this team. Bam, they beat them. And I remember when Virgil came on and was asking him, he said, what do you think about it when people were saying about the easy start? He said, not bothered about the start. You're delighted you get a start like that because it gives you the momentum. And I think, Kels, apart from the Nottingham Forest, they've not slipped up in any game in respects of like the mentality of what they need to do. I think that the managers come in, and like you mentioned rightly, Izzy, he's only brought in Chiesa really as a squad player, but the players know exactly what to do to the point where they don't have to exert themselves in this season where a lot of teams have not come up to the mark.
But even though you're talking about the quality of players in the squad, the quality of the squad with the addition of Chiesa, who hasn't featured very much this season. He did for a little spell, but hasn't featured very much. It still wasn't a side that was being tipped to win the Premier League title.
I think it was an element of the unknown. Whenever there's a new manager that comes into any club, you know the fans want to see how they're going to set up, how are they going to play, are they going to drop this player, are they going to play this player? there's a lot of unknowns to be revealed. And with Liverpool, what Arne Slot's done in comparison to Klopp is we've spoken about the control and the slower level of football, but higher impact in some respects because of where they are in the league table. Jules mentioned earlier, rightly so, the rest of the Premier League hasn't necessarily found high performance levels, but Liverpool have only got to do what they've got to do, which is win and beat everybody that comes in front of them. But I think I just looked at the players, the subs on the pitch, the players on the pitch, and I'm like, they look like champions elect. And I don't know what it is about them. Sometimes you just get a smell in football that you can just feel it. And it would take a horrendous slip up for them now to drop that title that they've almost got one hand on the trophy.
And they also have Mohamed Salah to draw on at any stage, who, in the midst of contract negotiations and everything that's happening off the field, and the fact that he's 32, about to turn 33, which is ancient.
So old.
All these conversations that are happening, he's just casually breaking records and breaking them with 11 games to go for Liverpool so far this season.
You know what, Kels, I think it could. We've seen great players and people have great seasons and that, but having a season in such a important season to him, especially with all this contract talk, I think it could be the best individual performance in respect of numbers and expectation from player I think I've ever seen in the Premier League. People will say, but what about Henry, this and that? He's scoring goals, he's assisting goals to the level, and you're still saying, Kel, he's got 11 games to go. I think you just have to look at the numbers, look what he's doing, just to recognise we're seeing an exceptional player. We're putting up some unbelievable numbers in what he's doing. And
he's done it twice. He's the first player to go past 40 goal involvements in a season twice. And like you said, he's closing in on that 3 gap to Haaland with 44.
I
say that, I'm going to read off my phone here because I couldn't remember all of these. Listen to this. So there's that one about being the first player to register 40-plus goal involvements in 2 different seasons. He's the first player in Europe's top 5 leagues to be directly involved in 50 goals across all competitions this season. He's scored and assisted in 11 Premier League games. That's the most by a player in a single top-flight season since Messi for Barcelona, which was 11. So he is likely to go past that between now and the end of the season. Salah's provided more assists in 24-25 than any other Liverpool player in a single Premier League campaign. That's 16. He's the first player in Premier League history to score and assist in both games against the reigning champions, and he's the first player to score 25-plus goals and register 15-plus assists in a Premier League season. With 11 games to go, these are his projected numbers. Now, there are factors that can come in, and you feel slightly nervous tempting fate for a player who's kind of putting in these kind of numbers, but projected to have 58 goal involvements between now and the end of season, which breaks the current record by 11.
Unbelievable.
I mean,
this is what I'm saying, Kels. I don't think it's over the top saying it's the best performance I've seen from a Premier League player in the history of the Premier League.
It's maybe the one that we saw the less coming. Because last season, the second half, when Liverpool faded a bit after Klopp announced he was leaving, they were in for the quadruple. And then in the end, they only won one of those 4 trophies. And it felt a little bit, okay, he's 32 now, Klopp is leaving, maybe this is the end of the cycle for him. And for him to produce his best season at that moment, because we said it's 25 goals and 16 assists now in 27 games.
It's ridiculous.
This is like Ronaldo, Cristiano and Messi level at La Liga 10 years ago at their absolute peak and best. And he's the best player in the world. As much as I love Kylian Mbappe and Ousmane Dembele, who are great right now, he's on another level.
Unbelievable.
It's interesting because he was asked whether he thinks this is the best form of his career. And he's like, well, it comes down to what you like to watch. He said other people might like earlier seasons where maybe he looked a bit more explosive and a bit more exciting, but this is a more mature performance from him.
The managerial change that happened last season, Klopp out and Slot in, it's probably benefited Mohamed Salah the most because the change in style, it's less intense. Mo Salah's still producing intense performances, and he's intense in the way he plays. He's 1v1. He always wants the ball, but the slower build-up and the slower, more controlled build-up actually gives him a chance to rest in possession, which actually then probably gives him more moments where he can go and be explosive without doing it repeatedly under Klopp. And I think that's why you're seeing this from him again. And like Jules said, no one predicted it. It's hindsight. We're sitting here going, oh, wow, look at his performances. But the shift and the management of what goes on within the club in terms of the players that are available to perform. He's had so many top players available to play. And that's not out of chance. That's by design. And they're just setting an example to the rest of the league.
You asked earlier on about Liverpool and their emergence, how they've come about, no one saw it coming. I think that everybody was so focused on what Arsenal might do in respect of challenging City and what City are going to do. Are they going to do the fifth? And then again, like I mentioned, the start of the season, I probably thought that once Liverpool saw the start of that season, and then they said, let's see where we are after that. And then they realised, then all of a sudden, you get all of the guys, the goalkeeper, Virgil, Trent, Mo, all those. Then you bring in someone like Gravenberch, which, you know, they were trying to buy Zubimendi at the start of the season because they couldn't fix that particular position. Now that's fixed. And then they've just kept on with the momentum. And I think that what's great about it, they've not got carried away with anything. You know, everybody's talking about, oh, yeah, but they're not playing well because they need to, this one put them, it doesn't matter. I've not seen a game where I don't think that they're going to be able to, if it's not going to, take someone off the bench and still finish the game. They're in total control, Kels. And it's quite scary to see, especially when the manager, it is, especially when the manager, none of them are his players. He's come in and he's coached these players. What's going to happen when Schlopp brings these players in?
Yeah.
His system, what he wants to play.
There has been pressure for Liverpool to do. They go in this summer transfer window because they have not been active in the previous transfer windows other than Chiesa.
Yeah, which is, I think, and I've said it, we discussed it with Izzy before, I think it's been a great thing for Liverpool not to bring anybody in the summer. Because you're a new manager, you bring 3-4 players, you have to integrate them.
Yeah.
They will potentially replace somebody who was already in the starting lineup, which creates a bit of tension inevitably.
It's someone's mate. It's someone's
exactly.
mate.
And there's change at board level where they would be making those kind of decisions and having those negotiations.
And I think in a way, even if maybe only Zubimendi would have come, but even the fact that they kept the same squad that had been together for such a long time, the same leaders, really, Van Dijk, Salah, Alisson, that I think in a way helped Slot massively for himself to integrate and say, okay, I've got this squad here, they know each other so well, I just have to come here, change a few things, tweak a few things, but then they've been living together for so long.
And then like you said, Izzy, about the fact that it's not as rock and roll and as explosive as Klopp. Yeah. Can you imagine now, at this stage, why we're seeing Salah's numbers maybe be so great is because, like you say, he can rest. It's not, so he can relax. So they've got more time on the ball, Liverpool, and you've got more time to rest. And then they've got more people, like Trent can pass it to you, Szoboszlai can get into the box now and score. You know, it's just like, without him actually bringing in anyone yet, now that when he does bring people, we're going to say, well, we have to listen to what he says now because we know what he's capable of doing. Yeah.
Does Slot also have to take praise as well for keeping the squad fit, being able to use it and managing the pace of the game and the pace of the season in terms of allowing all the players to get the rest that they need?
Absolutely. I think Curtis Jones is a name that springs to mind when you mention that, Kels, because he's a player who's been on the fringes. He's a player with immense quality. He's had an England call-up under Lee Carsley before Tuchel took over. It'd be interesting to see what happens with Curtis Jones when Tuchel finally gets hold of the squad. But I think that he is a player who's sat on the fringes, learned how Slot wants to play, and he's been used. And then, to me, the epitome is you get the nod in one of the biggest games of the season yesterday against Man City at the Etihad, and he plays that role. They play without a striker. He plays that role with Szoboszlai. And when I speak about monsters in midfield, Szoboszlai, he's different.
Crazy,
he is different level. And you've got Curtis Jones playing alongside him every day in training, you know, whether it's against him or whether it's with him, you know, as planning for a starting 11 place. Either way, what that does to his game on the training pitch is unbelievable. Yeah. And then you've got McAllister that had that little blend in. But like you say, keeping the squad fit, readily available. I always say it's, you know, tactical variation comes from a healthy squad, fully fit squad. You can do what you want with it because you've got available players. And the amount of managers that have to sit and listen to this player has only got 45 in them today. This player's only got 50. This player's unavailable because of this. Chopping and changing what you're thinking, what you're doing. What Slot's man management's been like this season's been unbelievable.
You know what as well, because you have to question as well the lack of injuries. And their sports science department must be doing some really good things. But again, it does feed into the fact that if you've got a squad that you can rotate, especially you've got someone like Schlott who is not hammering them in training. You know, when you're listening to other people, you're talking about how people are with Pep now, how people were maybe with Klopp, how they are with Mikel Arteta, where it feels like, well, they're really training hard. You don't hear that from Liverpool because obviously it seems to have eased down that level of intensity. And they're not getting injuries as well.
And that's what's hampered Arsenal a lot this season, certainly hampered them in the game against West Ham, was the absence of a recognised strike. I mean, look, there are longer running issues around Arsenal having an out-and-out goal scorer, but with nobody available to play. I mean, he played Marino in that position, but with nobody available who's a specialist in that position, they did look toothless.
Yeah, we did, and we're having a massive problem with a mid-block Arsenal. But like Kels, we can't ignore the fact that as much as people might be tired of hearing the talk of a striker, it's no secret we've needed a striker for 3 years. We've missed 5 windows where we haven't had a striker. I heard an interview with Mikel, what was from January before Kels, where he was talking about, yes, we will try and get somebody if that person fits in. We're talking about a global market for Arsenal to shop in, and for us to not, especially after Saka, especially after Jesus, to still not add to a squad that's clinging on by their fingernails to a Liverpool side that look like they're coasting, getting ready to put into fifth gear. You know, to hold on to them with everything that's happened is for me, from the board, it's terrible business.
So do you think that in some ways, and even if you factor in the injuries, the type of injuries that Arsenal have been having this season, and then you factor in that there hasn't been the activity in the transfer market over the last 5 windows to bring in that recognised striker, or even a backup
even before
striker.
Even before the injuries, we needed.
So if you look at
forwards.
have Arsenal kind of created their own problems then this season?
Yeah, I think so, and I think that what else has got to happen in the summer is they've got to get a director of football in. Somebody's got to come in like that. That's got to be one of the first appointments at Arsenal, because the business, what's gone on. When you look at, we've got a lone goalkeeper in Neto, who wasn't allowed to play in certain games, takes up a loan spot that Arsenal would have needed. And when you're looking at someone like a Villa went and found those 2 players. You know, we're going
to come on and talk
yeah, we are.
about
But
them,
just to make the point,
they've absolutely won the window.
Absolutely, they have won the window with Asensio and Rashford. They've realised what they need for that push for Champions League, and they've gone all out to make sure that happens. That's something that should have happened to Arsenal, especially with the way the season went last season and what they're trying to do this season. It's not happened, and it feels like, you know, it's for me, I don't think the manager could do any more. People are talking about the training, maybe the intensity of the training that Kells, and with a squad that is not very big, it's not very deep. Of course, that's going to hurt you, especially and some of the bad luck.
Some of the bad luck and some of the red cards that Arsenal have had this season. I mean, again, it's something that they can point to maybe as excuses, and I know a lot of Arsenal fans would feel that they've been targeted this season, or that they've been treated more harshly. It's probably a better way of putting it. But is there
some of them you won't even see again? I don't think you'll see someone like Declan Rice's one again. You know, you won't even see that. I think even Lewis Skelly's one at Wolves. Some of them have been really harsh, Kells. And I feel for the Arsenal fans because they do. But then
there's also Lewis Skelly's one in the West Ham game, and then there are also ones where it is throwing the ball away that, you know, it's an arguable yellow, or kicking the ball away, rather. It's an arguable
yellow.
Yeah,
but which one was kicking the ball away? You're talking about Declan Rice's?
Trossard's, I was thinking.
Trossard's one was really harsh as well.
Trossard at City.
But harsh, I think harsh, but also you could say harsh, and you could also say it's a bit silly at times. Does that sound fair?
I think it's easy to say silly. I tend to think, I don't know, try and get underneath it more and go, why are they doing that? And
if they were ones where I'm thought, well, that's a poor challenge from you. You shouldn't be doing that. But all of them have had a little bit of like, okay, we could have done without that, but did they really need to be sending offs? That's the only thing, and that's the only thing you question. That's what the Arsenal fans question. But at the same time, Kells, we have got the red cards, so you have to deal with them. But like, nothing can take me away from the fact that this team needed strengthening, and that's what it comes down to for me. And that's why now, as much as Arsenal fans don't want to hear it, the title race is very tough for us to still be involved in.
Although, and this is where we started off, and I like to end the day with you in a good mood. So, so look, okay, it's 11 points.
Yeah.
Liverpool have played a game more. They both have tricky fixtures in midweek. Arsenal are at Nottingham Forest. Liverpool are at home to Newcastle. There could potentially be a swing in that, in terms of the results. If Arsenal win their game in hand, then the gap is then 8 points. Could turn round in midweek, potentially, depending on which way they go. And Arsenal have yet to play Liverpool on May the 10th, which you can claw back another another 3 points. And then by my reckoning, that gets it to about 2 points.
Can I say
and
something?
then it's so I'm just trying to could turn around in midweek potentially, depending on which way they go. And Arsenal have yet to play Liverpool on May the 10th, which you can claw back another 3 points. And then by my reckoning, that gets it to about 2 points.
Can I say
and then it's so I'm just trying to
cheer.
I really appreciate it.
There are still 11, 12 games to go for this team. We are not at the business end of the season by any stretch of the imagination. It's February.
And the fact is, we still want a Premier League title to be raced, to be happening, a competitive one. But when you look at those games with Arsenal without forwards and looking at us what we're like with a team that puts a mid-block up, Kells, it's very difficult to make a case for us scoring goals.
I agree.
Whereas you look at Liverpool, even if it gets tight, they'll just say, activate Mo mode, activate Mo mode, and let's win this game.
Because your point would be valid.
Just activate mode.
Mode Salah.
He's got that. Oh, he's got like Darwin Núñez will come off the bench, or someone Jota will come off the bench. So they've got everything in place.
Because your point would be great if Arsenal had full strength. See, if Saka was there, and Havertz was there, and Gabriel Jesus, and they're not. And I think the way we saw them play against West Ham on Saturday is unfortunately the way.
Was sad.
Because against Leicester, it was like that for an hour
until
already.
Mourinho came on.
Yeah, it was exactly the same game as against West Ham. They were just hopeless with the ball in terms of creativity.
Absolutely was.
And that's the problem. And that's why I want Ian to be happy too. I'm like you.
But the more you lot are speaking, the deeper, the more unhappy I'm actually feeling.
Because we're putting the case for Arsenal, which is forcing you to put the case against. And it's plunging you deeper into that spiral.
You know what, it's heartbreaking because I just feel like the manager, in respect of a coach, is coaching as far as he can, and the help what he needed, he didn't get. And that is what's holding him back to the point now you're seeing Arsenal fans even being negative towards Mikel. And I'm not sure what more he can do in the current
Champions League.
Fingers crossed with that, Kells, because again, we're talking about the elite of the elite, and Arsenal have got to go there. And let's face it, limp there. They've got to be limping there. Is it PSG?
PSV.
PSV. You know what I mean? Again, it's a team that, in the current climate, Kells, you probably look at Arsenal, if you're PSV, in this stage of the Champions League and feel, wow, this is a good draw for us.
Yeah.
That's where we are at the minute.